Americans have a love affair with cars. It's ingrained in them. And if you think back when you were a child, of all the interesting things that took place in your life that revolved around a car, at some point you get old enough, and I guess I'm old enough, or more than old enough now, that you look back at your life, and a lot of things in your life you can just mark with the car that you had. You can say, this is the car I learned to drive in, this is the one I drove my wife to the hospital in, and we had a child. And at some point you say, I think I'd like to collect cars. I think I'd enjoy that. And you invariably go back to those cars from your past. And you may have hated a car when you were younger, but now the thought of having that car in your possession is something that a lot of people do. And it's amazing how many people collect cars. They don't all have collections like Dr. Simeon's, that's for sure, but it's amazing how many people collect cars. Well, the story of how I got started is really very simple, and it has to do with an orange Corvette split-windowed coupe from 1963. And we were 11 years old, 12 years old, and I saw the split-windowed coupe. Myself and some friends, we had just started picking up a camera and playing with cameras, but we really picked up that camera to photograph that orange Corvette that would go zooming through the neighborhood. And that's sort of where my career started. Eventually, when I went on to college for photography and I graduated and opened a studio here in Philadelphia, I was doing all studio still life work. And fortunately, I was really successful at a pretty young age. And one day I said to myself, well, as much as I enjoy my career, it would be much more interesting if I could be photographing things that I had a personal interest in. And cars immediately came to mind. It was maybe another 15 years later that I had that Corvette in the studio, a sister car to the split-windowed coupe. And when it came in the studio, I made everybody leave so I could sit there and talk to that car for a few minutes. And at first I wanted to be angry with it because of some of the difficulties that had taken place, but I really couldn't be too angry. I mean, I really said to the car, and all things considered, I've had a very interesting career, and that car got me into all kinds of unique situations that most people don't get to do. So I tell most people that I really, really love my job, and I do. I really enjoy going to work every day, and unfortunately most people can't say that. We can spend, depending on the car, either a couple of hours, or if I had my druthers, a couple of days. It depends on how much we need to get out of that car. When we're doing a book project, however, it's difficult to give one car much more attention than the other, because then the book gets out of balance. One car will seem insignificant compared to another. So we have to kind of balance things off a little bit. Frankly, it's never enough time, whatever it is. It's funny because Dr. Simeon has watched me shoot, and he has kiddingly said to me that he thought brain surgery was difficult. And of course I turned to him and I said, I don't think I made this look that hard. And I honestly don't think it's all that complicated. It's just that the scale of things are very large. When you go to photograph something in the studio that's relatively small, you don't need 3 or 4 people helping you move lights and arrange things. But when you're photographing a car, the light has to be 2 to 3 times the size of the car, and therefore you need people to move the light. We need people to move the car. There's a lot of scale issues that come into play that you wouldn't normally see. I still think it's easier than a TV shoot, and that's why I've not gotten into video. But so we think it moves along in a very orderly fashion, although somebody watching us work might think it just looks like chaos. What is the most difficult thing that we do? And I would say the logistics leading up to the shoot. By the time I get in front of the camera and we have the car in the studio, I think of that as almost being on vacation. It's a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy it. Photographing significant cars is really a tremendous honor. So everything about that part of the shoot is, I think, a lot of fun. But leading up to the shoot is where you have the issues. Where are we going to shoot? Is the car going to arrive on time? How much time do we have with the car? Those kinds of things are constantly changing, The day the car shows up, it rains and the car doesn't show up. The advantage of it being at the Simeone Museum is all the cars are in the building already, so we kind of eliminated that issue, and weather is not an issue as well. But on a lot of the projects we work on, the scheduling of things and finding a building large enough for us to work in is the difficult part. Well, the photography for the book took maybe 8 to 10 months from the time we started photography until the time the book came off the press. As I say to most people when we work with them on their projects, the photography is pretty much the easy part, even though we have all this equipment and I have a lot of assistants working with me. The photography is really the easy part. The much more time-consuming part is the writing and the research. And fortunately for me, Dr. Simeone had spent so many years thinking about this project. He really knew what he wanted to say. And even though the book has a lot of text in it, it came together very, very quickly. The design aspect of it, which I also oversaw the design of the book, was really quite a lot of fun to do, to marry the words and the pictures together. And the pictures aren't just my current photographs, but a lot of historical images. And for me, I actually like the historical pictures more than mine. There's a wonderful contrast between seeing the car in period and seeing the exact same car today from the exact same angle. We did that in a lot of cases, and it's something that we normally don't get to do. But Dr. Simeone has a very extensive library of archival material that allowed us to do this. The car we have in the studio today is the 1963 Corvette Grand Sport. I believe there were about 5 or 6 of them made. This is the car that is the most original. This is the car that has a local connection as well. I don't know all of the connection other than Mr. George Winterstein still lives in the Philadelphia area and his name is emblazoned on the flank of the car. This is a difficult car to photograph because it has a lot of the design cues of a 63 Corvette, much like that split-windowed coupe that I'd photographed. But it's been altered significantly for racing. So I'm trying to maintain the generic Corvette styling cues, yet still allow the more aggressive competition changes to appear. Actually, it's a pretty awkward